Today, we examine how customer relationship management evolves within smart connected ecosystems powered by AI, IoT, and big data. These technologies are transforming how firms interact with customers in real time, across channels, and at scale, but the key message of this lecture is straightforward. Data alone does not create value. Value emerges only when data is transformed into marketing and CRM capabilities that strengthen customer relationships, build trust, and drive long-term performance. Technology enables. Capabilities create, relationships sustain performance. That is the strategic logic we will unpack today. Big data has become the backbone of modern customer relationship management. For the first time, firms can understand customers not only at a single point in time, but continuously, across channels, contexts, and touch points. Companies such as Apple Health, Zara, and McDonald's illustrate how behavioral data, IoT-generated information, and transactional records can be integrated to personalize experiences in real time. They combine purchase histories, location data, app usage, and sensor data to anticipate needs and tailor offers. But the mere accumulation of data does not create competitive advantage. The strategic challenge is not data collection, it is value transformation. The critical managerial question is, how can firms convert big data into measurable business value? That is the focus of this chapter. To begin this chapter, let us consider a few striking figures that illustrate the scale and acceleration of the data revolution. 90% of the world's data has been created in just the last 2 years at a rate of approximately 2.5 quintillion bytes per day. Data volumes are expanding exponentially. Global data is doubling at unprecedented speed, growing at roughly 70% per year. Between 2020 and 2025 alone, global data volume increased from 16 zettabytes to 180 zettabytes, more than a tenfold expansion in just 5 years. Now consider what this means in practice. In the retail sector, Carrefour operates over 12,000 stores across 30 countries and collects daily purchase data on hundreds of thousands of SKUs. More than 100 million customers generate billions of transactions worldwide. This is not marginal growth. This is structural transformation. At the same time, advances in digital technologies, including e-commerce, mobile commerce, social media, IoT sensors, video, audio, online reviews, and loyalty platforms provide firms with unprecedented access to granular customer information. For the first time in history, companies can observe behavior, preferences, movement, and interactions in real time. These big data initiatives create enormous potential for customer relationship management. They enable highly targeted personalization of products, services, pricing, and communication. Industry reports, such as those from McKinsey, describe big data management as differentiating and potentially game-changing, suggesting profit margin increases of up to 60%. Whether those numbers are anecdotal and overstated or not, the strategic importance is undeniable. The central managerial question is no longer whether data matters. It is how firms can transform this data explosion into sustainable customer value and competitive advantage. And that is the aim of our research, to which extent firms can transform big data into firm value. Before developing our research, let us dig deeper into big data and types of big data. Big data is highly heterogeneous. It includes very different types of data that firms can leverage for marketing and CRM. However, these data types differ significantly in terms of data sensitivity and whether they are psychologically abstract or concrete. This distinction is critical for personalization strategies. Let us start with the least sensitive forms of data. First, aggregated text data, such as anonymous customer reviews, general social media comments, or non-identified feedback. These data are typically low sensitivity and abstract, especially when not directly linked to an identifiable individual. For example, a retailer can analyze aggregated online reviews to detect recurring complaints and improve service recovery. Because these data are distant and non-identity linked, they generate relatively low privacy concerns. Second, image and video trend data, such as publicly shared Instagram photos or anonymized product image recognition. When not linked to a specific identifiable customer, these data remain relatively abstract and moderately sensitive. For instance, fashion retailers can analyze social media images to detect emerging trends without targeting specific individuals. Privacy concerns increase if facial recognition or personal identification is involved. Third, real-time behavioral and transactional data, such as browsing behavior, clickstream data, purchase history, or in-store movement tracking. These data are more concrete and moderately sensitive because they are directly linked to an individual's behavior. For example, a retailer may use purchase history to offer dynamic promotions or personalized recommendations at the right moment. Because this data reflects actual behavior in real time, it feels psychologically closer, increasing both personalization relevance and privacy concerns. Fourth, IoT-connected object data, generated by smart household appliances, connected cars, robotic assistants, or wearable devices. These data are typically highly concrete and increasingly sensitive because they reveal daily routines and usage patterns. For example, a smart refrigerator can transmit consumption data to suggest grocery replenishment, or a wearable device can send activity data to a health app. Since these data reflect intimate lifestyle behaviors, they reduce psychological distance and heighten perceived intrusion if not carefully managed. Finally, biometric data such as heart rate, facial recognition, fingerprint identification, or voice patterns. These are the most concrete and highly sensitive forms of data, as they are directly identity-linked and physically embodied. For instance, a fitness platform may personalize training based on heart rate variability. Because biometric data are deeply personal and psychologically close, they trigger strong privacy concerns and require maximum transparency, control, and safeguards. The strategic challenge for managers is therefore not to collect more data. It is to understand the level of sensitivity, the degree of psychological closeness, the privacy calculus involved, and the empowerment mechanisms required. Only when data sensitivity and personalization depth are aligned with transparency and user control does big data strengthen CRM and create perceived value. Otherwise, it creates resistance rather than loyalty. Despite these impressive figures and the rapid diffusion of big data, academic research remains essential. In particular, we need a deeper understanding of how big data, through CRM processes, influences customer trust, loyalty, engagement, and overall customer experience, and how these relational mechanisms ultimately translate into firm performance. It is critical to determine to what extent investments in big data resources actually improve business performance. Equally important is understanding how the marketing function can leverage big data to create sustainable competitive advantage. Based on this gap, our research addresses the following questions. How and to what extent do big data resources influence marketing capabilities and ultimately firm performance? And does business strategy, specifically differentiation versus cost leadership, moderate the relationship between big data resources and business impact? Our research is grounded in three main theoretical foundations. First, the resource-based view explains that resources create competitive advantage only when they are valuable, rare, difficult to imitate, and properly organized. Second, IT business value theory demonstrates that technology creates value only through effective organizational use. Technology alone does not generate performance, capabilities do. Third, Porter's theory of competitive advantage helps us understand under which strategic conditions data supports differentiation versus cost leadership. From a resource-based view perspective, big data becomes a strategic resource only when it fulfills the VRIO conditions, when it is valuable, rare, difficult to imitate, and embedded within the organization. Standalone technologies are easy to copy. Competitive advantage arises from the combination of data, analytics capabilities, and organizational culture. This explains why many firms invest heavily in big data infrastructure but fail to see corresponding performance improvements. Big data resources consist of three complementary dimensions. First, infrastructure. This includes cloud systems, data warehouses, analytics tools, and IT platforms. These are necessary foundations, but they are easily imitable and on their own do not create sustainable advantage. Second, data analytics skills. These include the ability to model, interpret, and extract meaningful insights from raw data. Raw data does not create customer value. Value emerges from how data is translated into marketing and CRM actions. Importantly, data science enhances marketing judgment. It does not replace it. Third, a data-driven culture. This includes managerial support for database decision-making, cross-functional collaboration, and a customer-centric interpretation of insights. Culture determines whether data is actually used strategically and ethically. Only when infrastructure, analytics skills, and organizational culture work together does big data create firm value. Big data is powerful not because it exists, but because it is orchestrated. The resource-based view explains that big data is both heterogeneous and complementary. It consists of three interdependent dimensions of resources: analytics skills, technological infrastructure, and organizational capabilities. Big data itself is defined as a resource characterized by 5 V's, namely volume, variety, velocity, and veracity. And, when properly leveraged, it creates business value. However, big data becomes strategically relevant only when these dimensions work together. Only the combination of analytics capabilities, infrastructure, and organizational culture embedded within marketing and CRM processes can become valuable, rare, difficult to imitate, and non-substitutable. This is what transforms big data from an IT asset into a source of sustainable competitive advantage. The key question for managers is simple. How can firms leverage big data to achieve optimal performance? To answer this, our empirical study surveyed 300 managers across major US firms from different industries. We tested a fundamental mechanism. Do big data resources improve firm performance directly, or do they create value only indirectly faster by strengthening marketing capabilities, which then improve firm performance? Our empirical study clearly confirms the mechanism. Big data resources significantly improve marketing capabilities, and those marketing capabilities in turn improve firm performance. However, and this is critical, big data resources alone have no direct effect on firm performance. Their impact is entirely mediated through marketing capabilities. This finding is fully consistent with IT business value theory. There is no direct link between IT or big data investments and firm performance. Big data creates value only indirectly, by strengthening organizational capabilities, especially marketing and CRM capabilities. Without those capabilities, big data remains a cost center, not a value driver. This directly contradicts a widespread misconception. In the era of AI and Uberization, some argue that marketing no longer matters, that algorithms and data science alone drive success. Our results clearly reject this idea. Algorithms and data science are necessary to generate insights, but they are not sufficient. Without marketing capabilities, relationship management, trust, and customer well-being, big data does not translate into sustainable performance. Let me repeat the core message. Data, algorithms, and AI do not create value by themselves. Value is created only when firms transform data into marketing and CRM capabilities that customers actually perceive. Another important insight concerns competitive strategy. Using Porter's framework, we find that big data supports both differentiation and cost leadership, but not equally. Differentiation strategies benefit much more from big data resources. Why? Because personalization, customer insight, CRM, and experience design are inherently data-intensive. They require sophisticated data, customer behavior, location data, social media data, IoT data. When firms leverage these data resources effectively, they enhance relevance, personalization, and customer experience, which strengthens loyalty and long-term value. In contrast, for pure cost leadership strategies, big data offers more limited strategic leverage. Cost leadership focuses primarily on efficiency and scale. Competing only on price does not fully exploit the relational and experiential potential of data-driven CRM. That said, even in cost-oriented industries, big data and marketing capabilities still matter. But the strategic impact is stronger under differentiation. Our results show that companies pursuing differentiation strategies and effectively leveraging big data can increase firm performance by approximately 13%. This is not the exaggerated 60% sometimes cited in consultancy reports, but 13% is economically meaningful. It represents a substantial and realistic performance improvement driven by effective big data management and strong marketing capabilities. The strategic implication is clear. Big data creates the greatest impact when aligned with differentiation strategies that focus on customer value, experience, trust, and long-term relationships. That is where its true competitive power lies. Big data resources consist of three key complementary dimensions, ranked here in descending order of strategic impact. First, big data analytics skills. This is the organization's ability to extract meaningful insights from data, to translate raw information into actionable intelligence. However, analytics does not replace marketing judgment. It supports it. Second, big data technology and IT infrastructure. This includes data warehouses, cloud systems, analytics tools, and platforms that manage the 5 V's of big data. Volume, variety, velocity, veracity, and value. Infrastructure enables storage and processing, but by itself it does not create competitive advantage. Third, organizational big data resources. This refers to a data-driven, customer-centric culture, strong managerial support, and decision-making processes grounded in insights rather than intuition alone. According to the resource-based view, big data creates value only when these three dimensions work together. Isolated investments do not generate sustained performance. When analytics skills, technology, and organizational culture are aligned, they strengthen marketing capabilities, and through those capabilities, they improve firm performance. Big data is therefore heterogeneous. It becomes strategically powerful only when it is complementary. Only then can it become valuable, rare, difficult to imitate, and non-substitutable. That is when big data transforms from an IT investment into a true competitive advantage. Let me summarize the mechanism very clearly. The impact of big data is sequential, not direct. Big data resources first strengthen market-oriented marketing and CRM capabilities. This includes customer insight generation, personalization, responsiveness, and intelligent decision-making. These capabilities then improve the customer experience. They increase trust, customer well-being, engagement, loyalty, and ultimately customer lifetime value. Only after these relational effects materialize do we observe improvements in firm performance. There is no shortcut. There is no direct line from big data to profits. Performance emerges only when data is transformed into capabilities, and capabilities are transformed into customer value. This is precisely why data alone never guarantees success. Without strong marketing and CRM capabilities, big data remains a cost, not a competitive advantage. Let me close with the core message. Data, algorithms, and artificial intelligence do not create value by themselves. Value is created only when firms transform data into CRM capabilities that customers actually perceive, better personalization, stronger trust, and improved well-being. This directly challenges the so-called Uberization myth, the idea that marketing no longer matters and that algorithms alone drive success. That is simply not true. Algorithms are tools. Marketing capabilities convert those tools into customer value. So what are the managerial takeaways? First, big data must be managed as a strategic portfolio of complementary resources. Investing only in IT infrastructure is not enough. Infrastructure is a hygiene factor. It is easy to imitate and rarely differentiates. Competitive advantage requires alignment between data, analytics skills, marketing capabilities, and organizational culture. Second, marketing remains central. Data creates insights, but marketing transforms insights into value propositions, relationships, and trust. From a CRM perspective, big data should not be used to optimize isolated transactions. Its real power lies in strengthening long-term relationships through better personalization, higher trust, and greater customer well-being. Firms that use data to empower customers outperform those that use it only for monitoring and efficiency. Let us be concrete about the managerial implications. Infrastructure is necessary, but it does not differentiate. Data creates potential, but only when translated into actionable, customer-relevant insights. Data science skills must work with marketing, not instead of it. And culture may be the strongest differentiator of all, because it determines whether data is used ethically, strategically, and customer-centrically. The strategic implication is clear. Sustainable competitive advantage does not come from collecting more data. It comes from designing better customer relationships. To conclude, big data is not a magic solution. It creates value only when embedded in strong marketing capabilities and a truly customer-centric strategy. Sustainable performance emerges when technology, people, and culture work together to create meaningful customer relationships.